Saturday, October 15th, 2011. It's a crisp autumn afternoon in the capital city of St. Paul, Minnesota. On the north side of town, Samantha Neely is spending a quiet weekend with her 10-year-old niece, Ayanna, when she gets a concerning call.
Hello?
Hey, Samantha.
She got a call from Jared Sampson. He had dated Samantha's sister, Megan, for a number of years. But even though they had broken up, they had a 14-month-old daughter named Lily together.
You have any idea where Megan is? I have Lily here. She was supposed to come pick her up.
Yeah, she's at the amusement park with some friends.
No,
They called me and they said that she didn't show.
What? Have you tried calling her?
yeah, but she didn't answer.
That's weird. I'll try her. Hey girl, it's me. Give me a call back, okay?
After leaving numerous messages for her sister and getting no response, Samantha starts to grow concerned.
It would be really unusual for Megan not to call back Samantha.
Samantha talked to her all the time on the phone.
By 8 p.m. that evening, when Megan fails to pick up her kids, Samantha's fears are growing palpable.
It was not like her to just disappear.
Megan, it's me. This isn't funny. Where are you?
So where is this 27-year-old young mother, and why isn't she answering her phone? It's a question that will test the bonds of blood and expose the dark side of love when demons come calling.
The takeaway from this story is that predators can come in every form.
Born in 1984, Megan Neely was raised in St. Paul, Minnesota by her mother, Terry, and Terry's boyfriend, Darren Carter, after her biological father left when she was only 2 years old.
We had a blended family. He had 3 kids and I had 2.
We were like white on rice, peanut butter and jelly, ketchup and mustard, baked beans at the barbecue. That's how close we are.
But as much as Megan and her brothers and sisters adored one another, the hard truth was that their home life was no picket fence fairy tale.
There was a lot of drinking and drugs with the adults, a lot of fighting.
Amidst the chaos, Megan, the oldest sibling, was the glue that held her family together.
Megan was our mom. She took care of us. She made sure we got everything that we needed.
And though it was never an easy burden, Megan still managed to achieve more than most young girls her age.
She was a straight-A student. She was juggling basketball at the same time.
Not that the temptations of life didn't come knocking on occasion. During Megan's junior year in high school, she fell in love with a handsome classmate named Marcus, who propelled her life on an unexpected trajectory.
She would talk about him like he was the greatest thing that God gave to man, and he wasn't. But he was handsome. I give her that.
Do you love me, baby?
I do.
Love you too.
She got pregnant at 17. That's where things got hard for her.
Over the next 9 months, Megan's relationship with Marcus slowly crumbled.
They tried to make it, but they just, they didn't come together as a couple. And so that kind of crushed her.
At the same time, Megan's home life was also falling apart.
Her mother and stepfather were in a period of heavy drug use.
My mom started getting abused in front of us.
Terry moved with Samantha and Megan into a battered women's shelter, and that's where Megan lived during most of her pregnancy.
She couldn't finish high school at that time. Part of that was my fault also. A lot of it was.
Following the birth of her daughter, Ayanna, in January of 2001, Megan spent the next 5 years pulling her life together.
She put her all into being a mother and providing for her daughter.
She worked in a warehouse full of guys, and she ran that damn place like it was her own.
In 2006, with her life seemingly back on track, Megan fell head over heels in love with a man 20 years her senior named Jared Sampson.
They were good together. I mean, they complemented each other, even outside of their age difference.
They were very much in love.
Jared and Megan moved in together, and he embraced her daughter as his own.
He was nice to me and caring and stuff.
Although Megan and Jared seemed like the perfect couple, behind closed doors, the reality was anything but.
They were addicts together.
They drank together and they did their drugs together, but she would try to keep a regular job.
Before long, though, Megan's tenuous grip on life went up in smoke.
She lost her job, so Ayanna went to live with a family member.
For her to put Ayanna through that hurt me. Because she knew how it felt to have parents on drugs.
Yet Megan's already desperate situation soon got even worse.
She found out she was pregnant.
And on August 9th, 2010, when baby Lily was born, doctors discovered cocaine in her system.
My granddaughter was taken away by the state of Minnesota.
For both Megan and Jared, that was the wake-up call they needed.
They both made a commitment to one another to stop using drugs and get clean.
They went to AA and they both got part-time job telemarketing.
After a court hearing in February of 2011, Megan and Jared finally regained custody of Lily and Ayanna.
You hungry? Yes. All right, I got some lunch coming.
I was proud. Her and Jared were on the right path.
But by August of 2011, Jared had fallen off the wagon.
Jared didn't want to stay clean any longer. He was getting back into his old habits.
Megan experienced disappointment in Jared. She thought that they were trying to go on this journey together.
Seeking refuge from her troubled relationship, Megan began spending more time at AA.
Really, I just wanted to say thanks for being on this journey with me. I appreciate y'all.
AA was her chance to pay it forward, to say, I can go on this road, I can get better, you can get better. And I think she really had a pure heart in doing that.
One recovering addict, a 31-year-old metal worker named Corey Thomas, helped Megan gain perspective on her life.
So this guy you with, he's still using?
Yeah, he is.
Man, come on now, you know better than that. Sobriety is very important.
Inside the walls of AA, Corey was Megan's rock, and their bond only deepened over time.
Corey knew Megan was still living with Jared, but he began to develop feelings for her and was not shy about expressing them.
So what you got going on for the weekend?
He wooed her, he courted her.
She called me at work. She's like, I can't believe it's the first time ever somebody ever sent her roses and a box of candy.
Corey promised Megan a far better future than anything Jared could offer.
Corey's like, I'll help take care of your kids. He was like, I'll pay your bills. You don't have to worry about nothing, Megan.
Shortly after meeting Corey, ending things with Jared seemed like the only reasonable choice.
Jared had disappointed her. Corey was presenting a very different picture of a man. And these are people who are going down the same path in life.
Megan and her kids moved out, and she soon found a new duplex apartment with Corey.
Oh my God, baby, this place is amazing.
He came up with the deposit and the first month's rent.
I think we're gonna put the girls in this room right here.
Perfect.
It was a dream come true.
So why would this woman with a new fairy tale life suddenly fall off the map? As detectives are about to discover, when the ghosts of the past come knocking, sometimes it's hard to say no.
If someone or something is a prominent staple in your life and then it's cut out, it's hard to shake it.
Addict Megan Neely's boyfriend, Jared Sampson, fell off the wagon. She left him for another man she met in AA named Corey Thomas.
Corey was moving towards his own sobriety, taking that seriously.
Megan was very excited. I got somebody that really cares.
But on October 15th, 2011, when Megan fails to pick up her daughters, her sister Samantha fears something terrible has happened.
Megan's supposed to pick up the girls and she never called or nothing, and that's not like Megan.
When Samantha phones her mother, Terry Neely has a hunch where the couple could be.
And I went to thinking maybe she fell off the wagon and she's in a motel somewhere with Corey and they're getting high. I did not want to say anything else to the other kids because I did not want to upset them, especially Sam.
For people who have battled addiction, like Megan, there might always be that sense in the back of the mind of people who love them that they might be triggered to start using again.
The next morning, Terry tries to reach her daughter again. When Corey answers the phone, Terry suspects she was right all along.
Corey, you better not be doing drugs with Megan.
What? Megan ain't with me.
Why did you answer her phone?
She didn't tell you? I took it when we broke up on Saturday.
What?
He said that he was on his way to Chicago. She's got a new man. She's going with him.
Corey's explanation for having Megan's cell phone was that he had been the one who'd purchased it, so when she wanted him to leave, he was taking that cell phone with him.
So why didn't you answer the phone when I called earlier?
Damn, I was upset.
So you have no idea where Megan could be?
Probably with her new dude.
After Terry reports to Samantha what Corey told her, they decide to reach out to the St. Paul PD for help.
They explained Megan's history with drugs and the fact that she hadn't checked in with the family in over 24 hours. And so the police agreed to do a welfare check at Megan's home.
And what that means is the police department will go out and knock on the door and check to make sure people are okay. And in some circumstances, albeit tragic, we'll find people deceased or that something's not right.
Ladies, I'm Detective Peterson. You called?
Yes, I'm Samantha. I'm worried about my sister Megan.
That evening, Samantha and a close family friend, Pamela Jordan, meet police outside the apartment Megan shared with Corey.
All right, we'll go look inside and stay right here. We'll be right back, okay? We'll check it out.
Pamela was someone who Megan had lived with at one point. She knew her history and was very concerned and wanted to provide moral support to Samantha.
It's gonna be okay. She'll turn up. I hope so.
With Megan's daughter staying with relatives and her now ex-boyfriend Corey in Chicago, the apartment is eerily quiet.
Law enforcement did a sweep of the home. They didn't find anything that seemed out of the ordinary.
If we hear of anything else, we'll let you know, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Like Megan's mother, police can't help but wonder if this missing woman had relapsed.
St. Paul police told me she's probably out doing drugs at a hotel, because that's what a lot of people do. They go back and they go on hotel binges. We have to wait to see.
Still, officers agree to do what they can to try to locate Megan.
Officers began to gather all the information on who Megan lived with, who her regular boyfriend was, who the father of her child was.
The first person police reach out to is Megan's most recent ex-boyfriend, Corey Thomas.
We began by trying to call him and get messages to him to contact us and to come to the police station, but that was unsuccessful.
He told people that he was going to Chicago.
When detectives do finally get Corey on the phone, he's very forthcoming.
Corey's cooperative and basically tells the cops the same thing he told her family regarding their recent breakup.
As Corey rehashes the same story he told Terry, he brings up a new detail that could be crucial to the investigation.
On Saturday, the day we broke up, I overheard her talking to someone on the phone about getting a ride to T-Mobile.
Okay, do you think that was the guy she started to see?
Maybe. Just sounded like it.
Do you know which store they were going to?
No, sir, I don't.
All right, thank you very much. If we need any other information, we'll give you a call.
Though investigators are quick to follow up on Corey's lead, with few details to go on, they soon hit a dead end.
We never were able to locate what store he was talking about.
Later that day, detectives questioned Jared Sampson, the father of Megan's youngest daughter and one of her recent ex-boyfriends.
Though Jared had reported Megan missing to her family, investigators thought there was still a possibility he might be the mystery man Corey had mentioned. He was someone she had used drugs with in the past.
Jared tells detectives that while he did speak to Megan on Saturday, it wasn't in regards to a ride.
Saturday, you're texting her or calling her?
I talked to her Saturday morning. I called her in the morning to make sure that she was going to be there to pick up this baby because I work Sunday through Thursday.
Detectives then ask Jared if he thinks Megan could be out somewhere getting high.
I don't think she was relapse because, back in our past, we did get high. But after a while, she called and said, hey, I'm over here up. Could you please come get me?
Despite what Jared says, investigators aren't sure he's telling the truth. Given his past relationship and history with Megan, he could be covering for her. Of course, there's no proof of that.
In the meantime, hours pass and there's still no word from Megan.
I'm like watching the time go by, like tick tock, tick tock.
When Megan fails to turn up for work that Monday morning, her family requests a follow-up welfare check.
Could she have overdosed? Was she maybe the victim of foul play while under the influence? Or had she had a terrible accident?
Around lunchtime, investigators go out to the house
Thank you for coming out again to check on her. We're all really torn up about this.
As investigators make their way to Megan's door, they could never imagine what awaits them on the other side.
We all scream.
On Monday, October 17, 2011, police in St. Paul, Minnesota stand outside Megan Neely's home for the second time in a little more than 48 hours.
When Megan didn't show up for work that morning, her family calls the police and asks them to conduct a second welfare check.
While Megan's loved ones wait outside, officers enter the darkened home.
You smell that? Yeah, I smell that. It smells horrible.
Investigators began to smell the possible odor of a human being.
Now they are searching the apartment more intensely.
It's in Megan's bedroom that they stop.
Hey, there's a crawl space here. Anybody check that yet?
No, we haven't checked that yet.
The door to the crawl space was blocked by a laundry-type tote bin, which is why initially officers never thought to look in that area.
When investigators peer inside, what they find is horrifying.
Megan's body was found. She was covered with a comforter.
She had been subject to some type of trauma. She was bleeding. At that point, it was no longer a missing persons case. They were investigating this as a homicide.
Megan's unsuspecting family continues to wait outside, unaware of this tragic development. When 20 minutes pass and police still haven't come out, the family senses something is wrong.
We got nervous, and next thing you know, cops start coming out of nowhere, pulling up to the address.
Where's my daughter?
I'm very sorry, folks. She's no longer with us.
They just had that look on their face. We're sorry. She's up there, she's gone.
We were all screaming and crying.
We left before they carried her out. It was too hard.
And the Neely family still has an even more difficult task to face.
Megan's baby Lily was staying with her dad, and she's too young to understand what's going on. But Megan's 10-year-old daughter, Ayanna, had to be informed.
The entire family gathers to deliver the gut-wrenching news to Ayanna when she returns from school.
When she walked in and seen us all, she just started crying.
I had a feeling the whole day, like a weird type of feeling. I knew.
We kept saying, it's okay, we're gonna get through this. And then she said, who am I gonna live with? And I said, I will do everything for you to live with me.
Meanwhile, back at the crime scene, a team of investigators is hard at work.
We go in there with full rubber gloves and boots and began to photograph everything in length.
Evidence on Megan's body suggests one terrifying motive.
They found her with her pajama bottoms partially pulled down in the back.
We located a lot of DNA potential swabs around Megan Neely's body.
It looked like this could be a sexual encounter gone wrong or a sexual assault.
And certainly, since Megan was a former addict, they had to consider, could this have happened while she was heavily under the influence? On the other hand, maybe Megan's attacker was simply a stranger.
But not only is there no sign of a break-in, there are no drugs in plain view. Later that day, Megan's body is taken to the Ramsey County Medical Examiner's office for an autopsy.
First, there were no drugs found in Megan's system. And second, they were able to recover DNA found under Megan's fingernails.
The autopsy showed that she died from homicidal violence and that the cause and manner of death was strangulation due to manual asphyxia.
For investigators, it's a potentially important clue.
A large percentage of cases involving manual strangulation indicate a domestic relationship of some type.
A very personal crime, one that's filled with a lot of rage. A crime of passion, if you will.
Which means that detectives must begin interviewing the men closest to the victim.
Not only Corey Thomas, who was her ex-boyfriend, we also knew it was important to look deeply into Jared, the father of her child.
That afternoon, investigators leave a message with Corey Thomas.
They let him know that it was urgent that he call them back.
Soon after, police are able to meet with Jared Sampson at the station.
Jared seemed emotional about Megan's death, but police knew from Megan's family that he had broken up with her only a couple of months ago because of Mr. Thomas.
Maybe he was jealous of the relationship that was going on with Corey Thomas.
Yet under questioning, Jared completely denies this accusation.
He said he loved her, he cared about her and their child together, and no matter what Megan ever did, he would always be willing to take her back.
You've never gotten angry with her and taken it out on her?
No, I love her. Been together with her for 5 years. Yes, she's straight. But I love her so much where, go ahead, straight. If you for mine, if you for real, you'll be back.
He was claiming that Megan was reconciling with him, and the Thursday before she was killed, he had been with her sexually.
We learned that he was not just an ex-boyfriend, that he was in fact still having relations with Megan Neely. He still saw her regularly.
But Jared's claim that he and Megan intended to get back together hardly puts him in the clear.
That was based on his words. That needed to be corroborated.
Police knew he could be making this up to cast blame in another direction.
And a deeper look into Jared Sampson is about to uncover a tangled web of lovers and lies that will throw his entire story into question.
This guy? Wow, jaw-dropping.
When St. Paul police interviewed Jared Sampson, the father of Megan Neely's youngest daughter, as a suspect in Megan's murder, he insists he's innocent.
His story to police is that he had no motive to hurt Megan. He claims she was leaving Corey Thomas in order to get back together with him.
Then, during a break in their interrogation, they run Jared's name through their database. What police uncover raises a huge red flag.
Jared and Megan had a domestic fight that the cops were called recently to the house.
When investigators pull the incident report, they see the event occurred only 2 months earlier when Megan and Jared were still living together.
Thank God you're here. Listen, he just tried to kill me.
Hey, that's a damn lie. Hold on one second. Step up there real quick. I'll be with you here in a second, okay?
Jared was apparently furious with Megan after discovering that she had been cheating on him with Corey Thomas.
He came home and located some flowers that Corey Thomas had given Megan. This made him very upset, and he began to rip up and shred the flowers.
After that, Megan claimed Jared started to scare her.
He's this big person. I mean, he intimidated her.
Yet Jared disputed those allegations in a statement to police that night. He insisted that Megan was the violent one.
He said she came after him with the knife.
Days later, Jared took legal action against Megan.
He ended up obtaining a restraining order to get her out of the house, and then she moved in with Corey Thomas.
But in this case of he said, she said, investigators remain suspicious of Jared's actual role.
When there's been domestic violence, it can be really hard to figure out who the victim and the perpetrator is sometimes.
That's when Jared makes a startling admission.
Corey and Megan argued all the time, and they did this all the time. No, I just know that morning when I talked to her, I heard in her voice something was wrong. That he was on a rampage.
She told him that she and Corey were arguing.
Megan was breaking up with Corey.
Things were not going good. Corey Thomas was going to take her phone away. She expected there to be some drama.
I hear her voice. Hey, what's wrong with your voice? Phone, been fighting all night? Yes. Okay. Is he still there with you now? Yes. Is that the end of your conversation?
Jared said the phone went dead.
It's a startling story, but if true, why had Jared waited until now to tell detectives? Jared explains that during his last phone call with Megan, he had been with another woman.
He was sleeping with another friend of the family's, and he didn't want anybody to find out about that one. So he couldn't get his butt up and do anything about it.
Detectives pressed Jared to reveal his newfound love interest and immediately recognized the name, Pamela Jordan. It's the same Pamela Jordan who had accompanied Megan's sister Samantha on the first welfare check to Megan's home.
Once we determined that there had been a sexual relationship between Jared and Pamela, it was concerning to law enforcement.
Given the nature of the attack, investigators feel certain a man killed Megan, but now they have to wonder if someone might have helped him.
She was looked at more as a likely accomplice of Jared.
Pamela could have easily gone to Megan's apartment with Jared after Corey left and assisted in the killing. Or she could have simply acted as his spy after the fact, going to Megan's residence during the first welfare check to see what police knew.
To detectives, there's ample reason for Pamela to want Megan out of the picture. Later that afternoon, it's her turn to talk to police.
We know that you and Jared were together the day Megan went missing. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you know about her disappearance?
Nothing. I mean, she called on Saturday. She called Jared, and I think she was just upset about Corey or something.
She corroborated Jared's story. She could tell from Jared's end of the call that Megan was upset about Corey. And then Jared told her the call suddenly cut off.
But could this be a story concocted by the couple to keep the finger of suspicion pointed at Corey Thomas?
You being with Jared, it makes us believe that you might have wanted to help him get rid of her.
What? Are you serious?
She said that she and Jared started sleeping together in secret after he and Megan broke up. It was a casual thing, and the deal was always that she would step aside if Megan came back into the picture.
Of course, police still haven't confirmed that Jared and Megan were actually getting back together. Again, this could be a part of Pamela and Jared's cover story.
So detectives dig deeper into Pamela and Jared's story.
We were able to determine, in conjunction with the medical examiner, she was killed sometime before 3 p.m. on Saturday, October 15th.
But for most of the day, Jared and Pamela had no one to vouch for them except for each other.
And as detectives continue to try to verify their alibis, this already sordid case is about to take another twisted turn.
He attacked both of them with box cutters, scarring them for life.
Less than 24 hours after discovering Megan Neely's body in her home, St. Paul detectives can't help but wonder if her ex-boyfriend Jared Sampson and friend Pamela Jordan may have conspired to kill her.
Police discovered that Jared had a secret sexual relationship with Pamela, the woman who accompanied Megan's sister to the first welfare check at Megan's apartment.
Jared's story was that he and Megan had reconnected sexually and had planned on getting back together. But there was a prior domestic incident between them. I think the concern was that Jared's story to police could be a fabrication, or Megan might have changed her mind about staying with Corey. Of course, Pamela's potential motivation might be jealousy.
While police continue this line of inquiry, Megan's landlord comes forward with information that's about to turn the case upside down.
He told detectives that when Megan and her new boyfriend, Corey, applied to rent their current apartment, he uncovered something troubling about Mr. Thomas.
Corey Thomas had got out of prison and was on probation in Minnesota.
He had had 4 assault convictions since 2006, and they were violent.
I told Megan with that kind of background, he couldn't be on the lease.
What struck him was Megan's reaction. She seemed shocked that Corey had gone to prison for these kinds of serious charges.
Megan went on to sign the lease herself. Just 2 weeks later, she was dead.
Given this new information, detectives begin digging deeper into Corey Thomas's criminal record. What they find seems to suggest an increasing pattern of violence, the most vicious episode occurring only 2 years before Megan's murder.
I'm not leaving. I'm done. I promise you're not leaving.
He had attacked his last girlfriend, who had tried to terminate a relationship with him with a box cutter. And he had cut her, as well as her stepfather, who tried to intervene and help her at the time.
He had left her and her stepfather scarred for life.
As detectives read through Corey's litany of crimes, they notice one reoccurring theme.
All of the assault charges in Corey's criminal background seemed to be linked to a breakup, which was very concerning to detectives.
Jared Sampson claimed Megan was trying to end her relationship with Corey at the time she was killed.
Which was very significant to law enforcement in terms of the likelihood that he may have been involved in hurting Megan.
But despite several attempts to contact Corey again, law enforcement has still been unable to reach him.
That was very suspicious as well.
On Tuesday, October 18th, detectives reach out to Corey's brother, Damian Thomas.
When was the last time you saw your brother, Corey?
Yesterday, I dropped him off at the bus station over in Maplewood.
His brother had said Corey was tired of Minnesota women, and he mentioned going to either Chicago or Florida.
The fact that Corey left town only the day before is shocking to detectives. They had been led to believe Corey left for Chicago days ago. But it's what Corey's brother reveals next that really raises detectives' eyebrows.
Anything peculiar about him or out of the ordinary?
Corey had bought a car, a Monte Carlo, from his brother in August for $3,500. He sold it back to his brother at a loss for only $881.
To investigators, this looks like the act of a guilty man.
That indicated to us that Corey was trying to get money to get out of town.
With mounting evidence that Corey Thomas is now a fugitive, detectives must pinpoint his location.
They contacted his cell phone company and learned that his phone was still on.
We began tracking him using electronic data and cell phone data.
Near Chicago, they suddenly lose the signal.
We thought that at that point he'd gone to Chicago and turned his phone off.
Then, on Wednesday, October 19th, the phone suddenly turns back on.
He was now in Miami, Florida, outside of the international airport in Miami.
Detectives enlist Miami police to help canvass the area, and they locate him in a hotel across the street from the airport.
Within hours, armed officers prepare to storm Corey's hotel room. But what no one yet knows is if this dangerous fugitive will run or fight.
He would not surrender.
He was going for a gun.
It's October 19th, 2011, and police in Miami, Florida only have a door separating them from potentially dangerous murder suspect, Corey Thomas.
Police had reason to suspect at this point that he had murdered Megan Neely and fled to Florida.
He actually grabbed something in his hand like he had a gun.
Get on the ground! But when Corey makes a run for it, police realize whatever he's holding isn't a gun.
He didn't go down easy.
With Corey now in custody, on October 21st, St. Paul detectives finally get a chance to talk with their top suspect.
Okay, I know that you know that something terrible happened back in St. Paul. Yes. Right? And it's our job to find out what happened.
During the interview, Corey insists he's an innocent man.
I know I didn't do this.
Corey denied killing Megan, but did talk about an argument he had with her.
As for why someone with nothing to hide would flee to Florida, Corey says he has a logical explanation.
There was a woman who lived in Florida who had a child by Corey Thomas, and he had said he went to Florida to visit her.
But detectives aren't convinced.
You said that you guys got into an argument. Did it ever become violent? No. No scratching? No.
Something stood out immediately. He had a large scratch on his neck, and it looked like something that a fingernail would make.
Do you know where you got that?
This came from something else in that warehouse and stuff. I was getting cut a lot. I was working in the Belmont. So you could do tests on it, but I guarantee this don't come from no Megan.
When detectives ask Corey if he'd be willing to submit a DNA sample, he agrees without hesitation.
Those were all taken to a state laboratory for future testing.
Though police don't have enough evidence to charge him with murder, Corey is brought back to Minnesota for a probation violation.
Fleeing the state of Minnesota without permission, which was a violation of his parole.
During his 6-month sentence, detectives have their work cut out for them.
They're not only looking for more evidence against Corey, but also they have to try to rule out Jared Sampson and Pamela Jordan, who still haven't been cleared as suspects.
What law enforcement did was obtain search warrants for Jared's cell phone records. His cell phone records were consistent with what he reported to law enforcement, that he'd been at his home in St. Paul all day, and were able to determine that the only time Pamela was at Megan's apartment was when law enforcement was there on the scene.
While Jared and Pamela are cleared of any wrongdoing, the same can't be said for Corey Thomas.
His employer said that Corey was never injured at work. His boss told us in length that if Corey had been injured at all at work, there would have been a report of it, and there was no such report.
Then in April of 2012, detectives received the much-anticipated findings from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Laboratory, and the results are conclusive.
DNA under her fingernails was a match to Corey Thomas. We knew that Corey was the last one to see her alive. We believed that they had been in a fight and an argument, and we knew that he had fled town. But before the DNA information came in, our case was not as strong as we had hoped. Once we started to get the results about the DNA hits, then our case got a whole lot stronger.
On April 2nd, Corey Thomas is finally charged with second-degree murder in the death of his former girlfriend, Megan Neely. For Megan's family, it's a bittersweet victory.
In the saddest moment, it was the happiest hour. We were gonna get justice.
As the case moves to trial, the defense reaches out to the prosecution about a possible plea deal.
The defense certainly knew that the state could seek a life sentence in this case.
There was a mountain of evidence against him.
In the interest of sparing the Neely family a long and salacious trial, the prosecution agrees to a deal.
It came down to our concern about not putting Megan's 10-year-old daughter on the witness stand. She likely would have been a witness. We did not want to put her through that.
It saved us family scars. We already have scars. We don't need more.
Had this case proceeded to trial, we likely would have sought an indictment for first-degree murder.
In exchange for a guilty plea, the prosecution agrees not to up the charges to first-degree murder.
The prosecution laid out a sentencing range of 29 to 34 years to be determined by the judge at the time of sentencing.
On December 11th, 2012, Corey Thomas appears in court for sentencing.
The courtroom was filled that day. Corey Thomas's family, as well as Megan Neely's family, showed up.
At this emotional hearing, Megan's relatives paint a vivid picture of the courageous woman they lost.
She's a woman who had overcome significant struggles in her life to get back on the straight and narrow, to get her children back, to be a good contributing member of society, and she was taken away from them for no reason.
Before the judge announces his sentence, Corey Thomas rises to make a stunning statement.
He ended up talking about how he did kill Megan. They were involved in some type of fight involving a cell phone. He talked about how in the middle of the night, an alarm went off on her phone, and this made Corey mad. This argument continued all the next day and into the next afternoon.
You're still on that damn phone.
How's my phone bothering you now?
Because it ain't yours, bitch.
Megan having possession of something that Corey provided to her may have given him a sense of ownership of her. And so if this phone was causing some sort of annoyance to him, it might have really been a symbol of the annoyance he had with Megan. And it might have given him an excuse to then take his rage out on her.
Some type of physical altercation happened. It was at that point that she was strangled and put into the crawl space on the second floor.
Corey claimed it was an accident, but when you choke them to death, it is not an accident.
I think he needed, in his mind, to put hands on her, because that was the only way he could control her.
Given the brutality of Corey's crime, the judge hands down one of the harshest possible punishments under the terms of the plea.
Corey Thomas was sentenced to 33 years in prison.
But for Megan's daughters, Ayanna and Lily, their mother's death will be a burden they shoulder for the rest of their lives. A lifetime of loneliness and heartbreak, a hardworking mother finds herself in love with an irresistible suitor.
He just had a personality that just grabbed at you, and you don't have a choice but just to fall for it. It's like meeting your first love for the first time.
He was everything that she wanted in a man.
But in this game of hearts, were there other forces at play?
She's candid. She says, actually, we were purchasing heroin together.
Everything happened so fast.
It's evolving more and more down a dark path.
Unfortunately, when kids are involved, all bets are off.
And when two lives are swept up by the maelstrom, detectives will be forced to question their own beliefs about the nature of evil.
He went from 0 to 100 real quick.
We're looking for a monster.
What part of this did he smell? What part went wrong? Who could have protected these women from what happened to them?
Wednesday, February 20th, 2013. It's a typical winter afternoon in Chicago, Illinois. But as the drone of daily life rings in the air, a chill of another sort is about to whip across Lake Michigan. It begins just past 3:30 p.m. when frantic calls send firefighters to a blaze at a Southside apartment complex.
Firefighters rushed to a very chaotic scene. There was a lot of smoke coming out of a building, and residents were standing on the street.
There's a lot of confusion. Everybody's kind of pouring out into the courtyard.
After determining that the fire source is in a first-floor apartment, firefighters quickly gain entry.
They run into the unit and they discover flames and soot everywhere.
As they enter, they do see that it's been engaged for some time.
As one team of firefighters works to get the blaze under control, another group works their way further inside the apartment.
As the firefighters walk through the unit, they come upon a bathroom door where they notice a blade stabbed through the door from the inside.
Whoa, is anyone in there?
They slowly open the door to discover an extremely gruesome scene.
They were just so horrified at how much blood was on the scene. The first body that they saw was a woman lying in a pool of blood. They also discovered a younger woman in a fetal position in a bathtub full of bloody water.
They fairly quickly determined that there's not going to be any life-saving techniques that they could apply.
They had a double homicide on their hands.
Dispatch, we've got a 552 police matter on South Maryland Avenue. Sent for homicide and arson investigation. We're looking at a crime scene.
Law enforcement immediately contacts the apartment's landlord to ascertain the identity of the victims.
𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 Duncan was 24 years old, and 43-year-old Cherie Adams was her mother. It was determined that the victims on the scene were, in fact, these two women.
With the identities of 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 and her mother confirmed, investigators must ask what terrible evil had befallen them. As they are about to discover, some crimes aren't just beyond the pale, they're also inexplicable.
It was bizarre. They didn't know what to think.
I could get all the way to 10.
Oh, you think you can? Okay, let's see.
Chicago native Cherie Adams was just 19 years old when she gave birth to her beloved daughter, 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒, on December 21st, 1988.
Cherie was a single mom, but she adored 𝐄𝐿. She was determined to raise her right. Fortunately, she didn't have to do it on her own for long.
Cherie met the man of her dreams when 𝐄𝐿 was a little girl.
Oh, hi.
Hello. I've been seeing you around here. You and your daughter stay right upstairs, right?
Oh, yeah. That's us, just me and my baby.
I have a couple of little ones myself. I'm Anthony. Anthony Penix.
I'm Cherie. It's nice to meet you. Since you have a few little ones of your own, I mean, you should probably bring them by sometime. Be nice for her to have someone to play with.
Yeah, I like that.
In 1998, after only a few months of dating, Cherie and Anthony decided to move in together.
He loved her and she loved him.
Though Cherie and Anthony never officially tied the knot, the couple considered each other husband and wife and loved one another's children like their own.
She really played her part. I mean, she was a big mom, you know, the mom that we adore.
It turned into this Southside Brady Bunch. It was just one big, happy, loving family.
But while her mother had found love, young 𝐄𝐿𝐻𝐒's shyness kept her from the dating field over the years.
𝐄𝐿 wasn't really outgoing or outspoken, but she always wanted to just make people happy, and people loved being around her.
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. My name's Sean.
Hi, Sean. I'm 𝐄𝐿𝐻𝐒.
𝐄𝐿𝐻𝐒, that's a pretty name.
But when 𝐄𝐿𝐻𝐒 met the handsome Sean Livingston at the age of 23, her aversion to dating became a thing of the past.
You want to take a walk or something?
Yeah, that's fine. We could do that. Yeah.
With Sean, 𝐄𝐿𝐻𝐒 had a certain glow about her.
That honeymoon phase is really exciting. You have butterflies in your stomach and you're going on dates all the time.
She was excited she got a boyfriend.
Not long after 𝐄𝐿𝐻𝐒 and Sean began dating, the young couple received life-changing news.
She was pregnant, and that worried her. Although she loved Sean, she just didn't want to disappoint her mother.
At first, Mom wasn't so happy, but Towards the end, she was really excited about it.
In 2010, Katria and Sean gave birth to a baby boy they named Marshall.
Katria loved her son so much, she wanted to give him the world and make sure that he was well taken care of. So she decided to go back to school to pursue her studies.
She went to college. She was a smart one, straight A student always. She just wanted to make Marshall's life the best.
But while Katria and Sean were both dedicated to their son, the couple's romantic relationship soon began to crumble.
He started cheating and dating some other girl. She was heartbroken.
The breakup was pretty nasty. Sean wanted custody of Marshall. Katria did not want that to happen. Things got really ugly.
In the wake of her breakup with Sean, Katria moved back in with her mother and her mother's common-law husband, Anthony.
It seemed like the best plan of action was for her to move back in with family while she got back on her feet after the breakup.
Unfortunately, in 2011, as Katria and Sean continued to disagree over custody, Katria's family was dealt another devastating blow.
What are you doing? How many of these are you gonna smoke?
After committing a crime, Cherie's husband ended up getting sent away to prison, and that just put a really big sadness within the family dynamic.
It was tough on all of us.
This news definitely hit Cherie the hardest. Her husband was her rock, and they built a great family together, and now she's alone.
Despite the pain in Cherie and Katria's hearts, at least one weight was lifted in 2013. Sean agreed to give Katria primary custody of their son, Marshall, and Chicago courts officially settled the terms of their child support.
A child really can help you to forget all those things, and you can just really get into playing with the kid and watching them grow and watching them learn new things.
While Marshall was a ray of light for his mother and grandmother, what neither yet knew is that forces were building beyond their control. And when they were unleashed on February 20th, the consequences would be heartbreaking.
That moment was shocking, unbelievable. It was unreal. Instead, I started thinking, who in their right state of mind can do this?
As the door closed on 2012, Chicago natives Katria Duncan and her mother, Cherie Adams, had both loved and lost the men in their lives. But despite all they had endured, they still had each other to lean on and reason to be hopeful about their future.
They were relying on each other to get through the hard times together.
Katria was in college and was successfully working toward her radiology degree, and she had custody of her son. Of course, Cherie was thrilled.
But to everyone's horror, on February 20th, 2013, Chicago firefighters make a gruesome discovery in an East Chatham apartment complex.
Katria and Cherie were murdered in the home.
There was confusion and chaos amongst the neighbors of the building.
While residents comfort one another, homicide detectives arrive at the scene.
Detectives had some clues before even walking in to see the bodies. They knew they were up against a monster.
The first victim investigators examine is Cherie Adams.
She was found on the floor, had stab wounds all on her back.
Once detectives turned over the body, it exposed the victim's face, which they could tell was severely beaten.
Lying in the adjacent bathtub is Cherie's daughter, Katria.
She was in a fetal position, and it looks like her clothes were on her lower half of her body, even more strange. She had junk mail and all kind of pieces of paper on top of her face.
A little closer investigation of her reveals that she's suffered a slashed throat.
The murder weapon was determined to be the knife in the door. That was tagged and collected.
Although detectives have yet to make sense of the scene, they are able to immediately establish certain facts about the killer.
This is somebody that's had access to them and was able to get them both in a closed quarters and do this amount of damage in a short time.
You would definitely think that it's a person that they know and that it's something that got out of hand really quickly.
However, as detectives branch out to search the rest of the apartment, they notice clues that challenge their preliminary theories about the crime.
They notice empty prescription pill bottles throughout the home.
Is this some type of a robbery? Is possibly someone coming in here looking for drugs? When we find things strewn about in a location, sometimes it indicates a frantic search for items and drugs.
As they continue to search the apartment, they noticed that several windows were broken open.
It's like a break-in. Yep, probably for some of this stuff here.
They figured maybe someone broke in, tried to steal the drugs, and didn't realize that the homeowners were there, and it was just a robbery gone wrong.
As investigators continued to process the apartment, fire personnel delivered their findings about the blaze.
I just want to let you guys know that we located the source of the fire. One was in the bedroom, it was a mattress. The second one was in the kitchen. No accelerants were used, but it was clear that they used it to cover up the crime scene.
It all indicates some type of an intentional fire set.
This was a murderer trying to cover up his tracks. Was it a robbery? Was it drugs? Was it money? They're trying to piece it all together.
What investigators are about to learn will only fuel speculation and leave many to wonder if these seemingly demure women hadn't been playing with fire.
She's candid. She says, actually, we were purchasing heroin together.
February 20th, 2013. After responding to an apartment fire in Chicago, Illinois, law enforcement has discovered the flames were no accident, but an act of arson designed to hide the mutilated bodies of Cheree Adams and her daughter, 𝐅𝐔𝐋 Duncan.
These two women who were quiet and kept to themselves, who would want them dead?
While detectives initially believed that a series of broken windows in the apartment could be evidence of a break-in, interviews with fire personnel paint a different picture.
The fire department confirms that they, in fact, were the ones that broke the glass. So that takes a little bit of the indication off of a forcible break-in.
As the crime scene unit continues to process the apartment, detectives venture out into the parking lot where residents of the complex are still meandering.
Anybody know anything about what happened here tonight?
I do. I'm friends with Cheree.
One lady that comes forward, a resident there at the complex, informs the detectives that she's known the older victim, Cheree, for about a year. And she's candid. She says, actually, we were purchasing heroin together.
She called me early this morning. She was looking to score and needed money, but I didn't give her any.
The neighbor then continues to tell the detectives that there were also two different men that Cheree was dealing with. One was her heroin dealer. The other was a man who had compromising photos of Cheree.
Detectives feel like their motive is starting to come together. It seems as though she got caught up in addiction, and that led to a very seedy world for Cheree.
The detectives are concerned, obviously, with this new information about these two people that Cheree had some sort of intimate relationship with, one being the one that's providing her drugs. We don't know, if she owed him money, maybe he's sending a message. If I don't get my money, this is what you can expect.
The other guy that she was dating, he had some really compromising photos of her. So they thought maybe he came over and they got in a fight about that.
Now we've got two people we'd seek to want to interview.
Do you know anything about this man, what he looked like? Do you have a name?
No, she just mentioned him the other day.
Without names or descriptions, detectives find themselves at an impasse.
The next thing is you want to reach out to the next of kin.
Since the word spread pretty quickly, they didn't have to go too far because Rochelle showed up, who was 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐿's half-sister and Cheree's stepdaughter.
It was real shocking and, unbelievable.
When asked about her stepmother's alleged drug problem, Rochelle confesses that Cheree had been on a downward spiral ever since Rochelle's father, Anthony, was sent to prison in 2011.
It's very devastating to lose someone to imprisonment, not having someone around you that you're used to being there. It becomes very difficult to kind of put those pieces back together.
The family dynamic was devastated when he was sent away to jail. Cherie, who was a family woman, might have gotten caught up in the wrong scene, a drug scene.
Do you have any idea who she was getting drugs from?
No, I don't know. I mean, there's so many dealers in Southside. I don't know.
But Rochelle reveals that drug addiction wasn't the only difficulty Cherie had in her life.
Rochelle told him that Cherie thought someone was stalking her after hearing taps on her window several times in the middle of the night.
Could this be one of the men that had allegedly been dating Cherie, her drug dealer, or the man with compromising photos? Unfortunately, Rochelle seems as much in the dark as anyone else.
This is my first time hearing about that. I was stunned.
But as the interview continues, Rochelle begins to ask questions of her own.
Where's Marshall? Where's Marshall? Where's Marshall?
Who is Marshall?
Marshall is Katria's 3-year-old son. Where is he?
Where was Marshall? Who got him? You know, police said there was no baby there.
Now, we don't know if this 3-year-old's in the possession of the perpetrator or if harm has come to this child. It's taken this investigation to a whole different level.
Rochelle reveals to detectives that Katria and Marshall's father, Sean Livingston, were not on the best of terms.
They're starting to think, does this have anything to do with the murders? Is this Sean's doing right here?
As dusk settles on the city, Chicago detectives track down Sean's address and rush to the residence with the hope that baby Marshall is safe.
You Sean Livingston?
Yeah, that's me. How can I help you?
We may have an Amber Alert situation on our hands. We're looking for your son, Marshall. Is he here with you?
Yeah, he's here. What's going on? What's wrong?
They found Marshall and they found him alive. Now the detectives have to tell Sean that Katria and Cherie were found murdered.
Listen, Mr. Livingston, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we found the mother of your child and her mother murdered this morning.
Sean took this news pretty hard. He was shocked, very, very upset, and wanted to know what happened to Katria and Cherie.
But is Sean's distress all just an act to throw law enforcement off his trail? As investigators know, when love goes cold, bad things can happen.
I was thinking Sean probably had something to do with it.
Child support has been historically, unfortunately, a powerful motive.
After finding Katria Duncan and her mother, Cherie Adams, stabbed to death on February 20th, 2013, detectives in Chicago have been working around the clock trying to solve the case.
This case has now become very complex. Police have a lot of different clues, but not a lot of answers. We either have a drug deal gone wrong or a stalker situation.
But after an emergency search for Katria's missing 3-year-old son leads detectives to his father, Sean Livingston, a new piece of the puzzle soon grabs investigators' attention.
You and your ex have any problems?
No, we had a child support thing yesterday, but no.
As it turns out, a day prior to this murder, Sean had a child support court case involving his 3-year-old, and the judge had determined that Sean would now have to pay more child support.
So you're telling us that you having to pay Katria more money and not being able to see your son as much didn't bother you?
I mean, yeah, it bothered me. I mean, who would be happy about that? But just because I wasn't over the moon about paying more child support doesn't mean I would go out and kill Katria and her mom. She's the mother of my only son. Come on, man. A son needs his mom and his grandma.
Detectives still have their suspicions about Sean, but he assures them he has an alibi.
Where were you this afternoon?
I was with my buddies across town.
Before checking into Sean's alibi, detectives try to determine if he can provide them with new clues about the victims that might lead the investigation towards the truth.
But is there anything you can tell us about Katria and Cherie's personal lives that may have put them in harm's way? Anyone they were associated with that may have wanted to hurt them?
Man, honestly, I only communicated with them when it came to Marshall. Outside of that, I don't know what they do.
While Sean is unable to provide details regarding Cherie and Katria's day-to-day lives, he does point them to someone who can.
You could talk to their friend, Regina Mullen.
This is a person that he said is Katria's closest friend and would pretty much know who she's currently involved with and anything going on with her. They talk pretty much on a daily basis.
Thank you, Ms. Livingston. Sorry for your loss.
Detectives know they need to speak with Regina Mullins, but first, they verify Sean's alibi.
Detectives were able to check out the alibi. Sean was off the hook.
With Sean cleared, detectives tracked down Regina at her home.
We just wanted to meet with you so we can touch base, see if there was anything else you could tell us that may shed some light on the situation.
Regina had some more pieces to add to this puzzle. She informed investigators that 𝐄𝐏𝐒 was dating a new man for the past few months. She had a little glow about her and was really excited. She seemed to really like the guy.
Did she happen to mention this guy's name?
No, she never said anything about his name. But I remember seeing him one time. He was probably about 6 feet tall. He was thin. He was a nice-looking guy.
Unfortunately, Regina didn't know the name of the guy, but she knew where he lived.
I do remember the building that I dropped her off at.
Armed with this new information, detectives take to the streets at first daybreak.
Police decided to go to that apartment building and canvass the area and see if there was anyone that fit the description of what Regina gave.
They surveyed the area looking for this guy. Nobody knew who this guy was. The detectives get nowhere.
But just as detectives' frustration reaches its peak, someone comes forward with a surprising new lead.
First of all, thanks for reaching out.
A woman named Gail Long contacted police saying that not only was she 𝐄𝐒 and 𝐄𝐿 neighbor, but she had been friends with 𝐄𝐒 for many years.
Gail told the investigators that the day before the murders, she saw a gentleman being buzzed in to 𝐄𝐿 and 𝐄𝐒's unit.
Well, the day of the murder, I did go downstairs to see 𝐄𝐒, and she looked kind of irritated and distraught.
Hey. Hey. Girl, who was that nice-looking young man that came up to your house last night?
Ugh, don't even get me started on that. Oh, that's 𝐄𝐿's new boyfriend. She and that boy been up all night popping pills and causing a ruckus.
All night, really?
Girl, yes, and he's still here. Can you believe it? They in the back right now. All up back there all morning smoking weed.
You know what? Now that you say it, I smell it.
Yeah.
Can one of y'all give me some cigarettes? You know what? Actually, I'm on my way to the store. I'll get it for you.
Thank you.
No problem. I'll be right back.
Appreciate that.
Gail left the apartment briefly for a cigarette run, and when she came back, she could tell 𝐄𝐒's demeanor was different. She looked to be at the end of her rope.
When I came back, she was kind of looking like she was at her wit's end.
What's wrong? Listen, you hear that? They back there acting like a bunch of children. I promise you I'm about to lose my damn mind.
Listen, you can always come up and see me, okay?
Okay, thank you, girl.
You're welcome.
Gail says after their conversation, she walked back to her apartment, and it's then that she starts hearing loud banging noises.
I did hear some banging, but I thought it was the nearby construction site, so I didn't think anything of it. And when the alarms went off, I bammed on everyone's door, and when I bammed on 𝐄𝐒's door, no one answered.
The description Gail gave of 𝐄𝐿's new boyfriend is the same description Regina gave. And they're starting to put clues together and find out he was there right before the murder.
Another lead without a name. The detectives are extremely frustrated at this point.
Thanks again for coming in.
With the knowledge that 𝐄𝐿's new love interest had been at her apartment on the day of the murder, detectives decide to re-canvass the complex. But just what will they learn?
There is an intimate risk of danger for people who are around because he's not thinking in his right mind.
24 hours after the stabbing deaths of 𝐄𝐿 Duncan and her mother, 𝐄𝐒 Adams, detectives in Chicago have uncovered a tantalizing new lead. It seems 24-year-old 𝐄𝐿 had a new man in her life, and he was allegedly in the apartment she shared with her mother on the day of their murders.
The timing is more than a little suspicious.
Hoping a neighbor might know the mystery man's name, detectives canvass the apartment complex.
Hi.
Hello, ma'am. Mind if we ask you a few questions?
Sure. Investigators start knocking door to door, asking around, trying to see if anyone else knew about this new guy lurking around the apartments, hanging out with 𝐄𝐿.
Yeah, I've seen him around. I don't know his name, though.
Can you tell us anything else?
I remember hearing she met him at college.
But without a name, detectives have once again reached an all-too-familiar impasse.
It's so frustrating because they all provide the same description, but nobody has a name. So now the big drive is to find out who this mystery man is.
As crucial hours tick by, friends and family begin to wonder if 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 and Cherie's killer will ever be caught.
I stayed up all night trying to see who and why. It was very hard. It was tough.
While detectives continue to mull over their next move, across town in Chicago's South Shore neighborhood, police are about to face another crisis.
There's a 911 call in about a man who's trying to kill himself. Police rush to the scene to see what's going on.
Officer! He's back that way, apartment 3.
When police show up to the scene, a man waves them down frantically, and when they approach him, they notice that he is bleeding, and he's just full of fear. Police learn that the man is 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐿, and Charles begins to tell police that his friend, Thaddeus Ridley, is trying to commit suicide and possibly a threat to others.
In an attempt to stop Thaddeus from killing himself, Charles had injured himself. So Charles tells the police to be careful when they go upstairs because he was armed with knives.
As the officers approach this apartment, they're already on a heightened level of alert. But as they get to the door, they're starting to smell some smoke and they're even seeing cinders.
They hear very loud, heavy metal music playing, and they see that the door is slightly open, and when they go to knock on the door or try to gain entry, someone comes and slams it in their face.
Police, we're coming in.
Police decide to break down the door. When they open the door, they are approached with a very bizarre scene.
They discover a recliner that is on fire and a man standing in the middle of the room with a dog collar, with a sword over his head in an offensive stance.
Sir, I need you to drop the weapon now. Now!
Thaddeus bolts and runs down the hallway. One of the officers bravely chases him and was able to actually tackle him at the bathroom area. There's a violent fight that ensues, and the officer is able to restrain him.
You go ahead and start firing EMS. Just try to set the house on fire.
With fire personnel on their way, officers remove Thaddeus from the apartment.
Thaddeus has been secured and being prepped for transport. Officers have an opportunity to speak with the 911 caller, 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐿.
Charles and Thaddeus are good friends. They've been friends for a while, live in the same building, and they're really confidants. They see each other like brothers.
So tell me what happened, Charles.
Yeah, I got a call from my friend Thaddeus, and he wouldn't sound like himself, so I came over to check on him.
Charles informed the investigators that Thaddeus had recently broken up with his fiancée.
What's going on, brother?
Charles, my man. She is leaving me. She really wants to leave me.
Are you sure, man? You know, girls say that all the time when you were arguing.
She wrote a letter. Here, go ahead, read it.
He was having some type of mental breakdown.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. I know you really love her.
I don't want to live anymore.
Calm down. What are you doing, man? Put the knife down. Oh, man, what are you doing, man? You're crazy, man.
Transport was requested for Thaddeus to be obviously taken in for psychiatric evaluation.
As police were driving to take Thaddeus to the psychiatric hospital, he blurted out something that took police officers by surprise.
All right, buddy, let's get you to St. Bernard so we can get you some help.
You guys shouldn't be taking me to the hospital. You should probably take me to 26 in California. 26 in California. Son, that's Cook County Jail. I killed someone.
Once I found out that he had confessed, I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't even put it in my mind that this was happening.
As detectives in Chicago's South Side continue their investigation into the brutal double homicide of Cherie Adams and 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐿 Duncan, officers across town are transporting 25-year-old Thaddeus Ridley to a psychiatric hospital when he makes a stunning confession.
I killed someone.
He begins to confess to murders. The officers at the time did not believe what Thaddeus was saying because they thought maybe this was a psychotic episode.
People, when experiencing psychosis, they experience hallucinations that are not there, and they believe things that may not have happened.
The police officers thought that Thaddeus might have been just repeating what he saw on the news.
But as the ride continues, Thaddeus keeps right on talking.
You guys know those two women over in Chatham? I killed them. That's right. It was me.
Buddy, just sit tight. We'll get you to the doctor and get you some help.
He started providing them details. You know about the two ladies that got killed? It's starting to get a little more real and concrete at that point.
Yeah, the girl. First I grabbed her and I threw her in the bathtub. And then I slit her throat.
You been watching the news? Is that where you're getting all this from?
Yeah, well, mom comes in, grabbed her. I sprayed her in the face with pepper spray. And then started beating her in the face. Beating her.
When police inquire about the names of these women, he says 𝐃𝐄 and Cherie.
So at that point in time, that's when they have to notify the detectives.
Inside the station, investigators attempt to interview Thaddeus, but now he refuses to talk.
With Thaddeus refusing to cooperate, detectives decide to reach out to his family and friends.
Through Thaddeus's closest confidants, detectives learn more about their suspect.
When detectives tell Thaddeus's friends about his confession, they're met with surprise and shock. It just didn't make sense.
I really, really did not want to believe that this was happening to Thaddeus. Thaddeus loved life.
As a young man fresh out of the Navy in 2009, Thaddeus Ridley dreamed of becoming a chef.
Me and Thaddeus met at Washburn Culinary Institute. He had that passion for cooking.
Even though Thaddeus loved to cook, the ladies were his real passion.
The ladies loved Thaddeus. He knew how to put a smile on their face.
But no one ever managed to hold his attention until he met Brandy Walker in 2010.
Thaddeus and I met at a New Year's Eve party that one of our mutual friends were throwing.
For both Brandy and Thaddeus, the attraction was immediate and impossible to ignore.
Like, oh my God, I can't wait till he calls me.
And he would come to school and tell me, hey, I met this girl. And I'll say, what's the girl name? He'll say, Brandy. He'll show me pictures. He's like, I'm in love.
And after 2 years of dating, Thaddeus decided it was time to take the relationship to the next level.
December 20th of 2012, that was the day he proposed.
Thaddeus was ecstatic. He would always say, I can't wait to marry this girl.
He lived the bachelor life for a while, but he said that he had discontinued any intimate involvement with everyone else and just was focused on me.
However, by early 2013, Brandy became suspicious of Thaddeus's commitment to her.
Brandy tells detectives that on the night of February 20th, which happened to be a few hours after the murders, she headed over to Thaddeus's apartment to talk about the state of their engagement.
For her, something in the relationship isn't right.
When I got there, you know, he was a little off. He wasn't himself.
Oh my God, Dad, baby, what's wrong? Baby, talk to me. Did something happen?
He was really emotional. For him to cry, it was something serious.
What is wrong with you? I can't help you if you don't open up your mouth and communicate with me. Come on, Dad, talk to me.
Brandy said Thaddeus fell asleep afterwards, and that's when she wrote him her letter. That's the letter he read when he woke up, which culminated in police coming to his apartment and him being arrested.
Detectives have to wonder if Thaddeus's relationship woes weren't the only thing troubling his conscience on the night of February 20th.
He was acting erratically just hours after Cherie and 𝐃𝐄's bodies are found.
Now their number one suspect, detectives secure a warrant to search Thaddeus's home.
They found pepper spray, they found bloody knives, the IDs of both Cherie and 𝐃𝐄.
The evidence cracks the case wide open. They have everything that they need to tie this to Thaddeus.
Thaddeus Ridley was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated arson.
I kind of felt relieved, but I was still hurt.
But if Thaddeus is guilty of murder, why 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐿 and 𝐈𝐶hREE? For that, investigators have to wait 2 long years until Thaddeus decides to come clean and plead guilty. According to Thaddeus, it all began in the fall of 2012 after meeting 𝐅𝐔𝐿 at Kennedy King College.
This happened while he was dating Brandy. He had been unfaithful with other women, and 𝐅𝐔𝐿 was one of those women. He said he'd had a sexual encounter with her at his apartment.
Thaddeus says after the encounter, he and 𝐅𝐿 went their separate ways. Then, as his relationship with Brandy continued to crumble, he and 𝐅𝐿 reconnected a few months later.
Thaddeus was likely feeling depressed about his relationship, and so he reached out to 𝐅𝐿.
Thaddeus says that on February 19th, he arrived at 𝐅𝐿 and 𝐈𝐶hREE's apartment around noon and began smoking marijuana with 𝐅𝐿.
You want to take it up another level?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Make you feel a lot better.
As the drugs coursed through Thaddeus's bloodstream, the next few hours became a distorted and dreamlike haze.
The drugs started to take over his judgment, his senses, everything. He was not the same Thaddeus that people knew.
Maybe in his distorted mind, he blamed 𝐅𝐿 for problems in his relationship, when in actuality, the fault was his own.
That's when things took a turn for the worst.
He says he and 𝐅𝐿 had sex, and then they decided to take a shower together.
He just snapped.
Hey, I love you.
Her throat was slashed wide open.
Whatever medicine that Thaddeus was taking combined with alcohol had took over his mind.
When 𝐈𝐶hREE overheard the commotion and went to the bathroom door, a similar fate awaited her.
What is that noise?
Before fleeing the horrific scene, Thaddeus scattered mail over 𝐅𝐿's face, filled the bathtub with water, and stabbed the murder weapon into the bathroom door.
It just seems really odd putting random junk mail on top of the body. When people, act out in violence, you can become very erratic. You may do some things that don't make sense.
This individual was broken, coupled with drugs that kind of all erupted in the murder of 2 innocent women.
On June 9th, 2015, a Cook County judge announces Thaddeus's sentence.
Thaddeus ended up with 60 years when he possibly was looking at least life.
For 𝐅𝐿 and 𝐈𝐶hREE's family, the verdict is met with mixed relief.
I think he should never get out. He should do the rest of his life in jail until he closes his eyes.
As for Brandy Walker, she can only wonder how the man she once loved became so broken inside.
That could have been me if I would have made him mad the wrong way. I just was trying to figure out how it could have been prevented. How that girl could still be breathing, her and her mom. It broke my heart.
If you or someone you love is suffering from depression or drug addiction, there is help available. Call the National Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services hotline at 1-800-662-HELP.
New Luxe Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. For $5, go classic. For $7, go lavish. For $9, discover something new. Eat Luxe your way. New Luxe Cravings boxes only at Taco Bell.
When love blossoms slowly, a young mother finds a bond like no other.
They were stuck together like glue. They were just amazing.
But secrets are simmering beneath the surface that will obliterate what a family holds most dear.
We can never exclude all the different people that were upsetting her, had a motive for wanting her dead.
We're scarred for life.
I miss her a lot.
And when police pull back the curtain on this horrific crime, no one can imagine the monster lurking in the shadows.
People don't think evil like this exists.
There were very strange methods to kill people. Kill them with kindness, poison, potions, pouring grease down their throat.
It does sound so hard to believe, but things are not always what they seem.
Friday, January 16th, 2009, 5:15 p.m. As the sun begins to set in the North Florida community of Lake City, one resident, 46-year-old Johnny Webb, pulls into his driveway after picking up his 2 kids from daycare.
Home sweet home, guys.
It was a nice residential area, very well manicured lawns.
As the children collect their things from the back of the car, Johnny notices something odd.
The garbage is not out by the road where he had left it.
All right, shut the door. There we go.
After letting his kids inside, Johnny walks to the back of his property looking for the missing can.
It was just sitting in a grassy area out behind the house.
How'd they get over here?
He went to move it, and it was very heavy, at which point he lifted the lid.
Oh, my God.
There was a young woman that appeared to be dead inside the trash can.
She was folded up in there.
Reflexively, Johnny races towards the house to check on his children. Upon opening the back door, he makes an alarming discovery.
It's unlocked, and when he gets inside, it looks like someone's been there.
There was a chair knocked over.
Kids! He was terrified that the killer might still be there. Kids! Come on, let's get out of here.
What's going on?
Come on, just listen to me now. Come on.
He notified law enforcement to come and investigate what had taken place.
As Johnny awaits the arrival of first responders, a fear dawns in his mind. Where is his 22-year-old stepdaughter, Johnnika Johnson?
Initially, he didn't know who it was. He thought it could have been his daughter. And of course, he was freaked out about that.
Come on, Janika, pick up, pick up, pick up.
He tried to call her and it kept going to voicemail.
When police arrive minutes later, Johnny is in a near panic.
Yes, sir. Officer, the body's in the back. Okay, what happened? I don't know.
When first responders peer inside the dark container, they know they're too late.
The emergency folks determined that this person is deceased.
47, start me at 47, crime lab, major crimes. And also some more units to clear the house.
By the time detectives arrive that evening, a stunned crowd of neighbors has begun to gather in the street.
The gossip had already started that somebody had been found murdered.
But no one appears more shell-shocked than homeowner Johnny Webb.
When I made contact with the homeowner, he was a little numb.
Look, I can't find my stepdaughter, Janika. I mean, she was supposed to be here this afternoon with her kids.
And you tried calling her?
Yeah, but I can't reach her. I mean, what if that's her in the trash can?
When I was told that it possibly could be his daughter, obviously a lot of compassion starts to overwhelm you because you're thinking this person has just lost an immediate member of their family.
Though Johnny Webb had been separated from Johnnika Johnson's mother for quite some time, he always kept a special place in his heart for his young stepdaughter.
Hey,
Hey,
what you doing?
just writing in my journal?
Okay. Listen, I'm heading out to the store. Does my writer need anything?
No, I'm all right.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
He loved her. She was one of his loved ones, and Janika stayed in the home with him.
Miss Johnson had a tough childhood. She had grown up in poverty.
As a teenager, Johnnika Johnson fantasized that love would rescue her from her troubled life.
Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned for Johnnika. She got pregnant at age 17 and the father left her.
And with each new romance, she was hit with disappointment.
For Johnnika, it was this constant theme of men abusing and betraying her.
Then in 2006, a budding new relationship with truck driver Darren Whitfield brought a ray of hope for 19-year-old Johnnika.
Oh, you're very beautiful.
Thank you.
He was a good guy and a stable person to have in her life.
Darren encouraged Johnnika to get into a training program and get a job. It was rare for her to have this kind of personal support.
Though Darren was clear from the start that he wasn't looking for a serious relationship, the two soon found out some surprising news.
Neither expected Johnnika to get pregnant, but that's what happened.
You know, I know we haven't talked about this a ton, but I really wanted to know how you were feeling about the baby.
Listen, I'm the dad, all right? I'm not going anywhere.
Really?
Absolutely.
Even if Darren couldn't commit to her, 𝐄𝐏𝐿 cared for him. His honesty and his kindness, they were refreshing to her, especially considering the guys that she dated in the past.
But just when 𝐄𝐏𝐿 had begun to feel at peace, it looked like she'd suffered the ultimate injustice.
Did you look closely enough at the body to identify that it was your stepdaughter?
I couldn't bring myself to.
Okay. Keep trying calling her. We're gonna go back here and see what we got, all right?
Okay. Try.
By now, the medical examiner and his team have removed the body from the trash can.
Rags and sheets were found along with her body, things that had been used to try and absorb some of the blood.
On the victim's back shoulder, police find evidence of how she was killed.
She had a wound which corresponded to a bullet.
But as the victim is turned over, Detective John Blanchard can't believe his eyes.
I recognized her face.
You can go tell Mr. Webb that it's not his stepdaughter.
After 𝐄𝐏𝐿 Johnson gave birth to her second child in 2007, the father, Darren Whitfield, promised to stand by 𝐄𝐏𝐿 through thick and thin.
They apparently weren't an exclusive couple, but she cared for him, and he said he would help 𝐄𝐏𝐿 raise their child.
Then on January 16, 2009, Lake City police were called to 𝐄𝐏𝐿's stepfather's house after he discovered a female body in his trash can.
Everyone's immediate fear is that the woman in the trash can is 𝐄𝐏𝐿.
But that all changes when Detective John Blanchard takes a long look at the victim.
I recognize this girl.
I was able to get a better look, and I did believe that I recognized that the victim was Katie Roberts.
Mr. Webb?
Yes, sir.
The girl you found in the back, we're pretty certain it's not your stepdaughter.
Thank God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
While the news is a relief to Johnny Webb, for those who know the victim, it's hard to believe Lake City native Katie Roberts has fallen victim to such a jaw-dropping crime.
It was a small town, and we know a lot of these people.
Some of Katie's family had been involved in criminal activity before, but none of them had touched anything this gruesome.
Born on August 28, 1981, small-town beauty Katie Roberts was known for her friendly and kind spirit.
She was that type of person that if you had a party, she was like the life of the party. She was always friendly. She got along with just about everybody there.
With a charming personality, Katie never lacked for suitors.
Having a guy, it never was an issue.
Katie ended up getting pregnant in high school and having a baby boy when she was 18 years old.
But no one really saw how special Katie was until 2000, when an 18-year-old named A.J. Washington drifted into her life.
Hi, are you almost done?
Yeah, I'm actually just getting done. I met her at a car wash. I was working there. Her beauty caught me first. Then after, I just started really, loving her for her personality, her ways.
Is that your son?
Yes, this is my son, DeAndre.
She always was a provider. She worked hard.
She was doing hair and on the side, like, watching kids.
My mom, she was a real nice person. She was there for you if you needed something.
Katie was probably one of the best girls I ever met.
After hanging out with Katie for a short time, AJ was completely smitten. But she was the type who made a man work to win her heart.
He would always surprise her, just like the romantic friend. There wasn't anything that he would not do for Katie. The more that he came around, Katie fell in love with him.
In 2001, AJ moved in with Katie and her son. Over the next 4 years, they built a happy life together.
She loved being, with me. She loved being around her family, period.
She was a family-oriented person.
Although the throes of domestic bliss were intoxicating, at times reality still reared her ugly head.
We were both fairly young. We had our rough spots. We had our ups and downs.
In 2005, Katie and AJ decided to separate. While both enjoyed playing the field, in the months that followed, Katie got an unexpected surprise.
She ended up getting pregnant during one of our breaks.
Katie ended up giving birth to a beautiful baby girl.
Though committed to her children, Katie was nervous about raising 2 kids on her own, until her knight in shining armor swooped back in.
I want us to get back together. I love you, love DeAndre. I'm gonna love little Erica too.
From that day on, these are my kids. I love them just as much.
A few months later, AJ popped the question.
He had put in a lot of planning. The ring was beautiful. She was ecstatic about it.
For these young lovers, it looked like their fairy tale was just beginning.
It was like a puzzle, and the two pieces just were meant to be together.
But now, the couple's dreams have ended in the ultimate nightmare. As detectives begin pondering how Katie met this gruesome fate, one thing stands out.
I didn't know of any connections to put her in the immediate area. This was not a normal place for her to be. So how did she get to this neighborhood? Did she get dumped here?
Of course, detectives can't rule out another possibility.
She was actually here for a reason at the house.
While homeowner Johnny Webb had reported the crime to police, detectives can't exclude him as a suspect just yet.
Often, people who report crimes end up being involved. Possibly the homeowner even pretended to think that it was his daughter in the trash can as some sort of diversion.
Obviously, we had questions.
Hey, Johnny, around what time did you leave the house this morning?
Around 7:30.
So when you left the house this morning, was there anybody still there?
Just my stepdaughter, Janika, and her 2 kids.
Okay, so they live with you?
No, they're visiting.
She'd come up from where she lives in Leesburg for a dental appointment.
And where did you get her today?
I went to work, and then I went to pick up my kids at 4:30.
And you found the door unlocked in the trash can around what time?
About 5 o'clock.
Could Janika have been the one that left the door unlocked?
I really don't know.
And you don't know where she is now?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember detecting anything outright suspicious about him, but he didn't have a lot of information either. So we didn't know if he was intentionally withholding information.
Well, Johnny, I'm gonna need to get your work number from you so I can call you back later and verify your alibi. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
No sooner have detectives finished their interview than a vehicle approaches the scene.
They're stopped by police, pulled over, and this woman is very upset.
What the hell is going on here?
Ma'am, we're in the middle of an ongoing investigation.
But this is my stepfather's house.
The woman is Johnny's 22-year-old stepdaughter, Janika Johnson.
I'm like, oh my God. I thought something happened to my stepdad.
I'm sure you, Mr. Webb's okay. Let me let the detectives know that you're here, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Besides Janika, the other people in the car are Janika's good friend Mandy Butler and Mandy's boyfriend, Christopher C.J. Andrews, along with Janika's 2 young children.
Once detectives confirm Johnny's alibi with coworkers, they shift their focus to a stepdaughter, Janika, and her friends.
I wanted to be able to talk to him, and the homeowner's daughter was the first person I wanted to talk to.
We weren't ruling anybody out at this point, but we weren't thinking that she was a suspect. It is rare to have a female murder another female.
Janika would probably be the best person to try to get some information from because, as her stepfather said, she should have been around the home all day.
And soon, a vast array of unsavory characters will be revealed, all of whom could have killed Katie Roberts.
There's no telling who else is involved.
Detectives in Lake City, Florida have transported 3 people to the police department for questioning in the murder of 27-year-old Katie Roberts.
Janika Johnson was the stepdaughter of the homeowner that found Katie's body. Mandy Butler and Christopher Andrews drove her home that afternoon.
Investigators begin by questioning Janika.
I don't know why I'm here.
But we're getting to that.
Detectives thought if she was home earlier in the day, she might have seen something that was crucial to the case. And of course, they had to rule out if she may have been involved in some way.
One of the things you do in an interview is we lock them in to certain things. You know, what time did you leave the house? We wanted to lock into some details that we didn't know if they were going to be important.
Do you know what time you might have gotten up?
Maybe home together.
Other than you and the kids, was anyone else in the house?
No.
According to Janika, around 2:30 that afternoon, she started calling around trying to find a ride to visit relatives in nearby Jasper, Florida.
She doesn't have a driver's license. She does not have a car. So she had to arrange for some way to transport her children and herself.
She finally connected with an acquaintance named Mon, but he wasn't available to drive her.
He said he had bitch problems, so he couldn't take me.
What does bitch problems mean?
He just said he was taking care of bitches.
That suggests that he may have been in some conflict with the lady.
Yet Janika explains that Mon offered to loan her his car if she found someone else to drive her.
So Jonica said she contacted her friend Basie Martin. He agreed to come over and drive her over to Jasper.
According to Jonica, at 3:20 p.m., Mon dropped off a green Pontiac at her stepfather's home.
Hey, thanks. Got the keys?
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Thanks so much.
Hey, no, hey, just hit me up when you get done with it, all right?
Yeah.
All right, see.
Bye.
He told me he got in the car with somebody in a pickup.
Jonica says 25 minutes later, Basie showed up at the door.
Hey, let me just grab the kids and then we can go.
Jonica said that in her rush to leave, she forgot to lock the door, which would explain why her stepfather found the house open.
As detectives have yet to establish a timeline for the murder, they ask whether Jonica noticed where the trash can was when she left.
The trash can was in front of the yard.
So it was out there by the road?
Yeah.
According to Jonica, the 30-minute ride to Jasper and the visit with her relatives went smoothly, but the ride back didn't go as planned.
The car was acting up and then it broke down on the side of the road.
Jonica claims at that point she called Mon for help, but couldn't reach him.
So Basie ended up calling his cousin and their friend Mandy, and they picked us up.
When detectives ask where they can find Basie now, Jonica assumes he's still with the car.
He was supposed to wait for Chris and Mandy to come back and get him.
Jonica gives police the vehicle's location so that they can send someone to follow up with Basie and retrieve the car.
Although Jonica seems forthcoming, her complicated story makes things difficult for investigators.
They haven't even ruled Jonica out as a player in the murder.
Get ready, 'cause I'm gonna tell you something real serious. Someone was killed at your house. Not a family member, not one of your family. But now do you understand why we're talking to you?
I was actually shocked at a body where I was at.
When Jonica asks if detectives have identified the victim, they respond by pulling out a picture of Katie Roberts.
You ever seen this woman before?
I don't know the girl.
She did not know who she was.
But detectives press further, hoping Jonica might still have some idea of what happened. What she reveals is surprising.
She said, if I had to guess, Mon came back after I left and dumped the body. Mon was a drug dealer, and he's kind of crazy.
He may have been in some conflict with this victim, killed her, and put her in that trash can.
Jonica's story seems convincing because detectives already know a local dealer by that name.
We knew of somebody in Lake City with a street name of Mon. Mon was involved in the drug trade. He predominantly sold cocaine.
Do you know what his phone number is?
I do. You need it.
Though detectives feel Jonica is cooperating, they still need to corroborate her story with Mandy and Chris.
So they interview Mandy and Chris, and their stories match Jonica's.
But when detectives run background checks on the witnesses, they learn something troubling about Chris.
He was the two-time convicted felon.
Was it possible he had some role in this murder? Could he somehow be using these two women to cover it up? Problem is, with no evidence against them, detectives had to let him go.
We'll be in touch.
That morning, as dawn breaks in Lake City, investigators drive to the home of Katie Roberts' family.
Ma'am, I'm Detective John Blanchard from the Lake City Police Department. Can I have a word with you?
Oh my God, is this about my sister?
I'm afraid so.
Come on in.
Apparently, Katie had been missing since last night.
Family members were very concerned, and they were trying to share with what her whereabouts were during that particular day.
That's when detectives are forced to break the terrible news.
When we started talking to some of the family members, they were ranging from crying to hysterical. Your heart just wrenches.
That was the most devastating day.
Investigators promise to do whatever it takes to catch the killer, but first, they need the family's help.
Can you think of anyone that would want to hurt your sister?
No, she was a sweet person.
When was the last time you saw her?
Yesterday around 1, she came by and asked me to watch her daughter.
She was going to do a girl's hair, and it was going to take her like an hour. Katie was supposed to come back to get her, but she never did.
Though the family can't tell police much more, they think Shonda Harris, Katie's roommate, may be able to help.
Shonda lived with Katie and Katie's fiance, AJ Washington. Katie told Shonda everything.
And it's what Shonda is about to tell detectives that will send this case spiraling in a whole new direction, leaving many to wonder if Katie Roberts hadn't been stoking the flames of deep-seated jealousy.
The victim had this dangerous lifestyle that would jeopardize her life.
Less than 12 hours after 27-year-old Katie Roberts was found murdered, Lake City detectives are meeting with her roommate, Shonda Harris, to try to piece together Katie's final afternoon.
Shonda was devastated to hear about Katie's death, and she was eager to help investigators.
According to Shonda, when Katie failed to come home on the night of January 16th, she admits fear wasn't the first thing that crossed her mind.
I honestly wasn't that worried.
That was not unusual?
It's just, Katie, she's got some problems.
She said Katie was involved with drug use.
But it's what Shonda says next that floors detectives.
Her own roommate described the victim as a lady that sold her body to men for sexual favors.
When you say the word prostitute, many people think of the stereotypical standing on the street corner. That wasn't Katie. Katie had select clientele and dealt with a certain, limited amount of men repeatedly.
It does happen where prostitutes are abused and killed, people that are paying for their services. So that opened up more suspects.
Even more concerning, on the day she disappeared, Katie had an appointment to meet a John at 1:40 p.m.
And do you remember his name?
No, sir.
It's a top priority to track this man down, but police still have to identify him.
In the meantime, investigators ask Shonda about another potential suspect, Katie's fiancé, A.J. Washington. Detectives can't help but wonder if A.J. might have been unhappy about Katie's dalliances.
Did he know how she made her money?
That wasn't something we talked about.
Do you know where we can find Mr. Washington?
He just left for work before you got here. I could give you the address.
While one team of detectives tries to locate Katie's unnamed client, another pays a visit to the auto shop where her fiancé works.
The police officers come talk to me. And that's when I found out that she was gone. It was a hard pill to swallow.
At the request of investigators, AJ agrees to go to the station for questioning.
Could you give us a rundown of what happened yesterday?
I went to work.
He had been there from roughly noon through that evening.
When was the last time you saw Katie?
It was lunchtime. She brought me lunch. Said she'll see me after work.
She said, all right, I'll see you when you get off. Love you. Love you too. We kissed. That was the last time I seen her alive.
Of course, detectives have reason to doubt AJ's portrayal of domestic bliss.
We asked AJ if he knew what Katie did. I don't recall him giving us a direct answer, but our feeling was that he knew. He was not okay with it.
The kind of behavior Katie engaged in, I mean, that would make any man snap, wouldn't you think?
Not me, sir.
I wasn't a saint the whole time that we were in a relationship together, so I can't knock her and say, oh, because you did this, I can't deal with you.
She had a troubled lifestyle, but he said he did love her and that he accepted her for that.
When detectives look into AJ's alibi, it checks out.
He had gone to work, and we confirmed that through his work, so we quickly ruled him out.
With her fiancé in the clear, that afternoon, detectives subpoena Katie's phone records.
Of course, some of her Johns were on that list, and we needed to talk to all of them.
As investigators examine Katie's call log, one number in particular jumps out at them.
Katie had been in contact with a man named Edward Thomas.
Edward had spoken with her on the phone at less than an hour before her phone stopped being used altogether.
Investigators waste no time hauling Edward into the station for questioning.
I knew who Edward was from past dealings in the law enforcement. Basically, we told him, we know you're paying her for sex. That's not our concern today. Katie has been murdered.
While Edward denies harming Katie, he does admit to meeting her in an area parking lot on the day of her death.
He said he owed her some money and paid her back.
He told us they had just met for less than 5 minutes and she left because she had to go do somebody's hair.
While this claim matches what Katie's sister already told them, investigators still aren't sure what to think.
I wouldn't say we didn't believe him. I wouldn't say we believed him either.
Well, we're gonna check out your story, so I hope you're not lying.
I'm not.
In the meantime, police have still been unable to locate the green Pontiac 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 Johnson claims she borrowed to travel to Jasper the day Katie was killed.
It wasn't where she said it would be.
And police can't locate the driver, 𝐅𝐶 Martin, either. But why has 𝐅𝐶 gone missing? Something detectives find in their database will make them wonder, could he be on the run for Katie's murder?
This individual was a 5-time convicted felon.
Another troubling revelation quickly follows after police check the number 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 gave them for Mon Mon, the alleged owner of the missing green Pontiac.
It had been disconnected 90 days prior to that, so it was impossible that anybody called to or from that number.
It's disconnected.
Had 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 intentionally given police a wrong number? And if so, why? A search of her stepfather's home is about to reveal the unfathomable truth.
As we went through, it looked like we were looking into her soul.
Less than 24 hours into their investigation, detectives in Lake City, Florida have discovered that 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 Johnson, the stepdaughter of the man who found Katie Roberts' body, has been lying to them.
They asked her for a number for Mon Mon, the man who supposedly loaned her his green Pontiac to visit relatives the day of the murder.
The number that 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 had given was out of service.
Now detectives are wondering what 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 could be trying to hide.
The only two suspects that had really been cleared so far were 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄's stepfather and Katie Roberts' fiance, A.J. Washington. That still left a whole slew of other people that had to be accounted for, including Katie's John, Edward, C.J. Andrews, Mandy Butler, Mon Mon, and 𝐅𝐶 Martin.
With a warrant finally secured to search the inside of 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄's stepfather's home, detectives are hoping they'll uncover clues about what really happened to Katie Roberts. Using ultraviolet light, crime scene techs scour the home. It's inside the kitchen that they make a stunning discovery.
Somebody tried to clean up blood in this area right here.
There was a large amount of blood that had been in the kitchen and cleaned up. We did find some cleaning products that were probably used in order to do that.
Under a table, they uncover another important piece of evidence.
They saw an expended shell casing.
It was the same kind of casing that the autopsy revealed killed Katie Roberts.
The evidence was pointing toward that the murder had taken place in the kitchen.
But it's what's found inside the room where 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 Johnson is staying that's truly mind-boggling.
We found a diaper bag with a firearm, which was consistent with the bullet casing.
And they find a journal.
In it, there were methods to kill people. Some of them very strange, killing with kindness, poison potions, pouring grease down their throat and on their face.
Then, a few pages later, detectives find what looks like a recipe for Katie's murder.
It was almost like a to-do list. Get a gun, get some trash bags, set up her alibi.
And that isn't the most chilling part.
The journal had a list of names that were labeled hit list. The victim's name was on the list.
Though detectives strongly suspect the journal belongs to 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄, they still have to prove it. When detectives return to the station, they find a surprise visitor waiting, 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄's friend, 𝐅𝐶 Martin.
He just showed up and said, "Hey, I heard you looked in for me."
I'm Sergeant Blanchard with Lake City Police Department. Appreciate you coming down, talking to us, trying to sort out some things. You understand you're not under arrest, right?
𝐅𝐶 allegedly had a felony record, so police wanted to find out if he could be involved in this crime.
When police ask where he's been all this time, 𝐅𝐶 has an explanation ready.
𝐅𝐶 says that after he called his cousin Chris Andrews to come pick up 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 and her kids, he made a second call to his godbrother.
I called my godbrother. Like, man, I need some gas, man. Came with a 2.5 gallon gas can, put gas in the car. I drove it to the ice vending machine. That's where the car seemed like it.
While being careful not to reveal their suspicions about 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄, detectives ask 𝐅𝐶 to run them through what happened the afternoon Katie was killed.
He basically corroborates everything 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 says, with one exception. He couldn't remember if the trash can was at the front of the house when they drove away.
Today, have you been in her house?
No. I ain't go no further than go.
So your fingerprints wouldn't be in the house?
No.
As for his possible connection to Katie Roberts, 𝐅𝐶 denies knowing her.
Of course, this doesn't necessarily mean much. 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 had said the same thing, and now police are almost certain that she lied.
As far as you know, was 𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 acting strange or anything like that when you came and picked her up?
I had to take it. She was cleaning up when I got there.
And then 𝐅𝐶 volunteers a story about something that happened a couple months earlier that raises detectives' eyebrows.
𝐿𝐼𝐃𝐄 had shown him a black semi-automatic pistol that she said was hers. 𝐅𝐶 stated that he told her how to use it,
When detectives show him an array of photos and ask him to identify the gun, it's another strike against Jan-Ika.
It fit the murder weapon that was identified.
Though police soon find the green Pontiac in the location Basie said it would be, they still aren't ready to rule him out as a possible accomplice.
One of the questions we had was who was able to lift the body up and put it in this trash can? That was going to take somebody with some kind of strength. We wondered if there wasn't more than one person involved.
If you haven't done anything, then you're not in any trouble. It's just some of the story doesn't add up.
But it's when detectives run the registration on the green Pontiac that they receive the biggest surprise of them all.
The car is not registered to Mon as Jan-Ika claimed it was.
This was actually Katie Roberts' car.
It didn't look like someone had loaned Jan-Ika this car. The more likely scenario was that she stole it after killing Katie Roberts.
To try to uncover the true nature of Katie and Jan-Ika's relationship, investigators begin interviewing her family and friends.
Multiple witnesses told us that Jan-Ika absolutely knew who Katie Roberts were, that they've known each other for a long time, that Katie has done Jan-Ika's hair in the past.
It was very clear that Jan-Ika had been lying to the police.
But something about Jan-Ika continues to gnaw at detectives.
The hatred that Jan-Ika had for Katie was very evident in her journal.
But it still wasn't a reason why she would do something like this.
What did she do to you that you could do such a heinous thing to her?
When Katie Roberts' murder, investigators in Lake City, Florida have uncovered information that indicates Jan-Ika Johnson did know the victim. However, what police still don't understand is why Jan-Ika would want Katie dead. But as other witnesses from the community begin to come forward, a new possibility begins to emerge.
I've heard different stories on a lot of things that was being said, just always jealousy.
Jealousy that stemmed from none other than the beloved father of Jan-Ika's 3-year-old daughter, Darren Whitfield.
I felt like he was the only person that ever motivated me. He tried to push me there. I felt like I loved him.
Though the witnesses all agreed Jan-Ika knew Darren wasn't her boyfriend, some claim they saw dark flashes of jealousy whenever Darren mentioned the other women in his life. And Katie was no exception.
It is believed that Jan-Ika was jealous of Katie because Darren found Katie, who was a very beautiful young woman, to be attractive.
We learned that he was also one of Katie's clients.
According to the witnesses, supposedly, Jan-Ika's anger finally came to a boil one recent afternoon when Darren accidentally pocket-dialed her.
Huh?
Supposedly, she heard Katie masturbating on the phone with her baby daddy.
That was entertained as a possible motive. Jan-Ika would want to kill her out of jealousy and out of spite.
After hearing this story, detectives approach Darren Whitfield.
He was very forthcoming to us, said he had not seen Katie in a little while and hadn't talked to Jan-Ika much either.
We confirmed everything that he had said.
But when it comes to the murder investigation, Darren can't do much to help.
He was confused by the detective's questions about Jan-Ika.
What do you think about Jan-Ika's jealousy towards Katie?
To be honest, I never told Jan-Ika about Katie, so I don't think there's any jealousy there.
But despite being unable to substantiate the motive, the district attorney believes they have more than enough evidence to charge Jan-Ika with first-degree murder.
The theory of the case was that it didn't matter why she killed her, but that she, obviously from the writings in that book, it was very clear that for whatever reason, Jan-Ika hated Katie.
On January 23rd, 7 days since Katie's body was found, police arrest Jan-Ika at her mother's home in Leesburg, Florida.
When we arrested her, she was robotic, no emotion, very strange.
With Jan-Ika in cuffs, Detective John Blanchard contacts Katie's family with the good news.
We thanked the investigators.
I was relieved that Jan-Ika was arrested for what happened to Katie.
At the station, detectives attempt to question Jan-Ika, but she quickly shuts them down.
She immediately told us she wanted to talk to an attorney. So that was the last time I spoke to Jan-Ika.
As the case moves to trial, investigators continue vetting Jan-Ika's possible accomplices.
It took a massive effort, but phone records and witness interviews all led to the same conclusion that Katie's Johns Basie Martin, CJ Andrews, and Mandy Butler, none of them could have been involved in this crime.
As for the mysterious Mon Mon, investigators finally tracked down the one man they know by that name.
Investigators did track down Mon Mon, who they already knew of. He was the alleged drug dealer in Lake City, but he had an alibi.
We confirmed that Mon Mon had been in Atlanta that morning.
1 month later, on February 22, 2009, Jonica Johnson's murder trial gets underway in a Columbia County courtroom. According to the prosecution, on the day of the murder, Jonica invited Katie to her stepfather's home under the pretense of wanting her hair done.
Is it okay for me to eat my sandwich?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna eat. I'm starving.
All right, yeah, take your time. You're fine. I'll be right back. So I run to the back real fast. Okay.
Katie was basically lured into the house by Jonica. It is believed that Katie was sitting down at the dining room table eating her sandwich, where we believe that she was basically shot.
The thing that is most disturbing is that while this murder is being committed, Jonica's children were inside the house, and that is just unconscionable.
As for how they believe Jonica disposed of the body on her own, prosecutors present a compelling theory.
The trash can was basically wheeled up into the kitchen area to the sliding glass door, and Miss Roberts was slid into the trash can.
Prosecutors say afterwards, Jonica attempted to create an alibi by asking her friend Basie Martin to drive her and her children to Jasper, Florida.
The state had a slew of evidence that pointed to Jonica's guilt. There was the location where Katie's body was found, there was the journal, and Jonica's touch DNA was found on the murder weapon.
But when Jonica's defense team gets their own crack at the jury, they work to undermine the most plausible motive for this murder, that Jonica was jealous of Katie's sexual relationship with Darren Whitfield.
Darren messed with a lot of people. And in a relationship as far as one-on-one in love, infatuations, he wasn't my man.
Jonica's lawyers also remind the jury that Katie led an unsavory lifestyle, which could have exposed her to any number of dangerous people.
We can never exclude all of the different clients that had abnormal motive for wanting her dead.
I don't know who committed the murder. It could have been anybody. It could have been a gang of people. Maybe it was one of her clients. I do not know.
As for the state's forensic findings, the defense argues that DNA evidence that linked Jonica to the murder weapon is insufficient.
There was a partial DNA profile of Miss Johnson on the gun. I think there was 4 alleles out of 13.
The gun was found along with the toothbrush, hairbrush, things that could have rubbed along my DNA. My DNA could have easily contaminated that murder weapon. So it's a genuine disputed issue.
But when the jury is dismissed for deliberation on February 25th, it only takes 1 hour to return with a guilty verdict.
She was convicted of murder on the 1st degree.
She was sentenced to life.
I was shocked because I did not expect to be found guilty of that murder. I'm still trying to understand the part of why this person had to die and why I was charged with the murder. That's the biggest questions that's still not answered.
But for Katie's family, it's long-awaited justice.
Jonica took everything that I had. I was happy that she got just what she deserved.
But in a case where questions still swirl, there's no denying Katie Roberts and her family have paid the most dear price, one they're still reeling from to this day.
I still look back sometimes and I get angry, but I don't hate Jonica.